The United States once stood tall as the undisputed manufacturing powerhouse of the world. Made in the USA wasn't just a slogan, it was a badge of pride. But today, that very identity is unraveling in silence. Over the past 18 months, $7.2 billion in manufacturing capital has quietly slipped out of the country. That's enough money to build 4 mega battery factories, each the size of Tesla's Gigafactory. But instead of energizing America's industrial heartland, this capital is powering up brand new production lines in Canada. This is no minor shift. We're talking about American icons like Coca-Cola, General Motors, Ford, Campbell Soup, Alcoa, and even Tesla, all rerouting parts of their production across the border. And what's left behind? Nearly 25,000 American jobs in Ohio, Michigan, and Georgia now hanging by a thread. While Canada rolls out the red carpet, lower taxes, clean energy, and electricity costs 40% cheaper. You might be wondering, how did we get here? What is President Trump doing as this economic exodus unfolds? And what challenges are everyday Americans now facing as their industrial base begins to vanish? Let's be exploring deep. Stay tuned with Mr. Mysterio, and don't forget to hit subscribe and ring that notification bell so you don't miss our future updates. Let's start with the rusting edge of American manufacturing. This isn't just about tariffs. The mass migration of these American companies is rooted in cold, calculated economics. When executives run the numbers, the conclusion is clear. Wherever it's cheaper, cleaner, and quicker to produce, that's where the factories go. President Trump recently doubled steel and aluminum tariffs to 50% under Section 232, citing national security. But within 3 weeks of that decision, Ford and GM had already redirected vehicle frame production to their Canadian plants in Ingersoll and Oakville. Alcoa, America's aluminum giant, shelved its maintenance plans at a Tennessee smelter because imported aluminum billet is now nearly 30% more expensive. According to the Detroit Automotive Economics Institute, U.S. automakers are now facing projected losses up to $180 billion. But why? Because vehicle parts that once cost cents now cost their weight in gold. The average price tag of a Chevy Silverado just rose by $4,900, more than many Americans can afford in this high-inflation economy. Theses moving to Canada, the big advantage is power, permits, and policy. The moment costs rise and buyers can't keep up, companies start looking for options. And Canada has become that option. In Quebec, industrial electricity costs just 5.7 cents per kilowatt hour, compared to over 10 cents in Detroit, a nearly 50% difference. That gap may seem small, but for power-hungry factories like Tesla's Gigafactory, it translates to tens of millions in annual savings. Tesla, never one to wait for permission, has already begun laying foundations in Valleyfield, Quebec, for a 10 gigawatt-hour LFP battery site. There was no flashy press conference, no Elon tweet storm, just quiet drilling and capital flow. Canada has sweetened the deal even more with a colossal incentive package, worth up to 52.5 billion Canadian dollars. That includes tax rebates, wage subsidies, and a ring of fire, rail link to transport nickel ore directly to battery facilities. It's a bold bet, one that Canada's government believes will take 18 to 20 years to fully pay off. But missing out on the EV revolution could cost them a century. In America, every CEO's nightmare? Permits, red tape, delays. But Canada just passed the Fast Track National Interest Projects Act, which forces government agencies to green-light key industrial projects within 90 days. That's lightning speed, compared to Washington's 18 to 24-month permitting labyrinth. Campbell Soup knows this too well. After waiting over 2 years for a wastewater permit extension in Ohio, the company gave up. They signed a lease in Kingston, Ontario to test Canada's new system. And now they're planning to shift their entire canned soup line north. The result? Canada has become North America's new California. Clean energy, lower taxes, streamlined permits, and a tariff-proof trade environment that makes assembled in Ontario a safer bet than made in the USA. Why Coca-Cola's quietly moved from America and shifting in Canada? Here's a story with real fizz. Coca-Cola. After aluminum tariffs shot up to 50%, Coca-Cola began importing empty cans from Canada. CEO James Quincy admitted this shift on the company's earnings call. And within 3 days, the Crown Weston plant in Toronto went full throttle. The night shift in Columbus, Georgia? Cut. Workers sent home with a 6-month furlough. Why not Mexico, you ask? Power again. Hydro-Quebec now sells electricity at 3.68 cents per kilowatt hour under the new 2025 rate. Michigan's rate? Over 8.5 cents. When you're producing over 1 billion cans a year, that price gap is a no-brainer. Coca-Cola's Canadian cans are already on Walmart shelves in Detroit $18 for a 12-pack, and still selling out. Let's talk about Alcoa. They've inked a hydropower deal through 2040 for their Quebec smelters, Bécancour, Baie-Comeau, and Deschambault. That gives them 1.1 million tons of tariff-proof aluminum, and a carbon score that lets them dodge Europe's new border tax. It's a dream scenario, and a nightmare for U.S. smelters facing volatile fossil-fueled electricity prices. GM isn't far behind. After calculating the massive hit from tariffs, they yanked $2.6 billion in investment out of Michigan and funneled it into St. Catharines, Ontario, and Bécancour, Quebec. By 2026, GM will produce 400,000 electric drive units in Niagara and 30,000 tons of cathode materials through a joint venture with POSCO. The domino effect of capital flight. Capital doesn't just walk away quietly, it leaves behind chaos. GM's Michigan plants are laying off over 1,300 workers. Cleveland Cliffs is preparing to cut 1,200 steel jobs. The pain is real. And Canada? They're leaning into the opportunity. Ontario's 2025 budget includes another $92 million for the EV charging network and tax credits for manufacturers. Meanwhile, local papers are calling St. Catharines Battery Valley as suppliers rush in, from separator plants to recycled graphite labs. Campbell Soup's cost-cutting gamble. Even humble soup isn't safe. Campbell's CFO, Carrie Anderson, estimates the new metal tariffs are slicing 3 to 5 cents off earnings per share every quarter. A $60 million annual bleed. That's not sustainable. So they've shifted can production to Toronto and are experimenting with cartons and pouches to cut costs even further. And the ripple effect: fewer steel orders in Ohio, fewer trucks hauling materials, shrinking demand for flour and agricultural goods. The PMI index has slipped into contraction, and factories are trimming hours across the Rust Belt. Tesla has doubled the size of its automation center in Ontario, and it's no accident. Canada's cheap. Green hydropower makes it the ideal place for Elon Musk's dream of a zero-emissions battery chain. Tesla's Baikonur cathode lab is already under construction, quietly preparing for the next big wave of EV dominance. And Ford? They were supposed to downsize Oakville. Instead, they're pumping $2.3 billion into an EV-ready line for Super Duty trucks. With federal and provincial support, 90% of that electricity will come from zero-emission sources. The same project in Michigan was delayed due to a 26-month environmental review. The EV supply chain shift is real. This is no longer a theory, it's happening. Canada is forging a nickel-to-battery supply chain, Quebec to Ontario to Europe. Green steel, clean power, short permits, it's all there. Ontario is now attracting 6,000 new manufacturing jobs and has seen metal sector wages rise 11%, the fastest since the 2009 recession. The U.S.? Michigan could lose 4,700 supporting jobs as Oakville ramps up. Green investment flows are shifting. Canadian battery stocks are outperforming. And even the EU prefers Canada's zero-emission products to U.S. fossil-powered equivalents. So where does this leave Washington? One option: slash tariffs, invest in clean energy, and fix the broken permitting system that takes 2 years just to say yes to a battery plant. Match Canada's speed, compete for capital. The other option: stay the course. Keep the 50% tariff, watch job after job drift north. And this isn't just about soda cans or car parts. Defense components, semiconductors, even pharmaceuticals could be next. Every screw and seal now costs 27% more because of these same policies. This isn't a political rant. It's a warning backed by numbers and headlines. Capital doesn't care about patriotism, it follows logic. And right now, the logic says Canada is a better place to build. When the factory floor shifts across the 49th parallel, it doesn't just hurt Ohio or Michigan. It shakes the foundation of the American industrial dream. The clock is ticking. Will America adjust in time? Or will the steel skeleton of our economy quietly rust away, one can, one truck, and one battery at a time? We'll be watching. This is Mr. Mysterio. Subscribe for more economic deep dives and keep your eyes open. If you found this video informative, don't forget to like and subscribe our channel. Thanks for watching.